morning. Wow, it's very bright up here. Thank you all for coming. I know how many wonderful things there are at South by Southwest this week, so really appreciate you being here with us this morning for our Nature Always Slays talk. Very excited that the creatives are going to be sharing their work with you, so I'm just going to do a little bit up front. First, what I wanted to do is just invite you to do a bit of a visualization. So if you could all close your eyes or lower your gaze. So what I wanted you to do is just think of a time that you were really happy, like properly super happy, sort of living your best life. Try and get a really vivid picture of this. What can you see? What's around you? Make the colours more vivid, maybe turn it up a bit. And tune into what you can hear. Maybe it's external sounds, maybe it's something in your head, maybe it's something somebody's saying. And who's with you? Maybe there's other people, maybe you're on your own. And where are you and what are you doing? Try and make it as vivid as possible. Take a breath. How does it feel in your body? Okay, you can open your eyes. We get a show of hands for people who are in nature in any way. Beach, forest, woods, garden. Okay, amazing. Okay, at least 50% of you. And people who were with others, kind of community, friends, family. Similar, okay. And anyone by themselves doing something they just love to do? Excellent, there's always one. Amazing. So what's really interesting is over the last kind of 3 years, we've been doing a lot of research in the UK and Europe about what makes a good life. And overwhelmingly, what people say is it's about connection to nature, to self, and to others. And so what you dream of and what makes you happy is actually what makes everyone kind of happy. The challenge with this is the good life that we're currently sold is one of more consumption, and in fact, not about connection at all, but about sort of buying more. And there's about 3,000 messages a day kind of telling us what a good life looks like. And it's more wealth, more status, more things. But there's a really big challenge with this. We'll need 3 planets if we keep consuming at the rate we're currently consuming at. And this is an impossible dream because we only have the one that we live on and we call home. But what if advertising, which is currently selling us the dream of consumption, what if the amazing kind of creative, strategic, brilliant problem solvers who worked in this industry, what if they were working on connection? What if they were helping us move towards the solution and they were part of the solution? I'm Merrick, Lawless. I'm one of the co-founders of Purpose Disruptors and a co-creator of Agency for Nature, which we're going to talk to you about today. I've spent about 20 years in marketing and advertising, starting my career client-side, working on brands like Strongbow and Tetley and Coca-Cola, becoming a marketing director, and then moving to creative agencies, working as a strategy director. In about 2018, I had a real climate awakening, I guess, in the rise of sort of Greta and the student climate strikes. The picture of my daughter, who's on the left here, who was 11 when she went on her first climate strike. And for me, it reminded me of what I really cared about when I was her age. So as a teenager, I campaigned for Greenpeace. And I think it really was a moment of wondering kind of how lost I'd got. And so I quit my job. I retrained, went to Cambridge, went back to do a course on reimagining advertising, and then moved to a kind of ethical agency where my clients were sort of the WWF and Innocent and Greenpeace and lots of wonderful things like that. And for a while, I thought that was maybe the answer. But a year in, I think I realised, whilst there is a role for ethical agencies and they play a very important role in the ecosystem, it's a very small part of a very big picture. And actually, the whole picture needs to change. The whole system needs to change. The whole advertising ecosystem needs to change. And so I set up Purpose Disruptors in 2019 with John and Rob, 2 other co-founders who worked in the industry. We started as a pub night, sort of gathering people together who were sort of wrestling with the tension of working in advertising, but also being aware of the climate crisis. And we went from sort of 20 people upstairs in a pub to about 2,000 people at COP26 2 years later. So there's a real appetite for change within the industry. Purpose Disruptors is an award-winning organisation, and we believe it's time to change the story of advertising and what advertising does by changing how the industry thinks, behaves and leads, by changing what we make and how we measure impact, and by changing the stories that we tell the world. And our vision is pretty ambitious. It's one in which advertising works in harmony with our natural world. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Our work spans 4 different areas, so measurement, education, building community and creativity, and today we're going to talk about creativity. And we work with a lot of different people within the industry, and I kind of want to set the scene for how big these organisations are. So all of the top ad agencies, all of the top network groups, all of the media agencies, awards bodies, even the industry bodies, you know, D&AD, et cetera, et cetera. And what I will say is it's all driven by people. So within all of these organisations, there is somebody who feels the same way that we do, and that is what is creating change. And very early on in these projects, we ran an imagination workshop, and one of the people who came along was Toby Allen, who's the Chief Creative Officer at Anomaly, and I loved what he said, which is we need to change from being a service industry to an industry in service of life. And so that's, I guess, what we're holding sort of dear. Like, is it possible for this industry to become part of the solution? So introducing Agency for Nature, which is a pop-up agency we launched kind of a year ago, and we've done 2 lots of campaigns, one last year and one this year. And I just want to set up a little bit about the brief before I introduce the creatives. So like every good agency and like every good brief, you need a sort of clear problem to solve. So the problem that we were talking about was actually looking at nature connection and the decline in nature connection. So when you look across Europe, we actually come bottom for nature connection, which is quite bonkers considering our professed love of rolling hills and all things nature connected. We also come bottom for biodiversity and well-being, which is, they're obviously connected. But what do we really mean by that? So nature connection isn't just a sort of phrase, it's actually a kind of science, and it's a psychology, and it has sort of really big sort of teams of people at places like the University of Derby measuring it. So nature connection is described as the extent to which people have a meaningful relationship with the rest of nature and see it as part of their identity. And why does that matter? Well, it matters on an individual level because it gives people meaning and purpose. It matters for wider society because it enables us to build community around the things that are important. It matters a lot for biodiversity, so that's more around sort of nature activism and conservation. And ultimately, it matters for climate change. So it's been proven that there's a very big connection between how people feel nature is part of their identity and the kind of pro-environmental behaviours that they are kind of living their lives by. And when we dug into the data a bit more, looking at nature connection, it falls off a cliff when people are about 14, and it doesn't come back until they're about 30. So there's a real gap for young people around nature connection, and they are particularly vulnerable at this time in their lives. And when you look at why that is, it's really not surprising because nature has a huge image problem. It's all kind of castles, rolling hills and deer. And I don't know about any of you, but that's not what my local park looks like. And this doesn't connect with people, in particular because in the UK, 84% of us live in cities. So the nature we need to be talking about is actually urban nature. So our solution was to set up the Agency for Nature, where nature itself is the client and people are working on the most important brief, which is about all life on Earth. So just in terms of what the specific brief was for the creatives, and then I'm very excited to kind of pass over to them to share the work. So our brief was very simple, put nature at the heart of youth culture. So not nature over here, castles, deers, rolling hill, but nature that is brought to people within the cultures they exist and within the communities they exist in a way that kind of resonates with them. So we took the creatives out into nature itself at Walthamstow Wetlands for the briefing, immersing them in bird watching with the wonderful Nadine Pereira in the middle from Flock Together. And that was the beginning of the sort of collaborative journey that they've been on. And in terms of sort of our partners for this magical journey, we've invited creatives from 5 of the top agencies in the UK, so Iris, VCCP, House 337, Droga and AMB, BBDO. And then around them, we built an ecosystem of really kind of powerful media partners and production partners. So to ensure that their work went far and wide, it was across TV, cinema, outdoor, experiential, digital, social, influencers, everything in between, with amazing production partners, and Locate were a very special kind of production partner at the core. We also had nature partners to keep us on track, so checking in regularly with people like the London Wildlife Trust and Natural England, making sure that our messaging was correct. And so I really am very excited to welcome to the stage the creatives. Amazing. So we have Jake, Charles, Poppy, Hadley and Chip, who are all going to talk through their individual campaigns. I'm going to hand this over to you, Jake.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Jake from VCCP. My creative partner James can't be here, but he would love this. So yes, our project was Extra Time with Nature, which came from this insight, which is on the screens and places. So we basically thought there's this insight that there's thousands of amateur footballers, football clubs, who play matches in their local parks, fields and spaces every weekend. And each of these kind of locations has its own unique sort of wildlife, flora and fauna, things that exist, but unfortunately a lot of people who go there, especially maybe if they're just going there to play a football match and then leave, they're not kind of taking notice, they're not kind of appreciating this nature, which is kind of what took us to the idea of Extra Time with Nature. In a nutshell, we kind of set ourselves the brief, and we kind of set on this idea to connect amateur football and the players that play it with these spaces and with the nature that kind of lives and breathes in these places. So we kicked off, to pardon a pun, with some out of home. We worked with the amazing photographer Cat Highland, and we actually worked with a real Sunday League football team in Derby called Field Lane, who were great. So we shot some of their players in their pitches, around their parks, and kind of used language from the football world for our headlines, and we kind of gave them a kind of nature and humour twist. So we had Eyes on the Cloud Lad, and our end messaging was all about taking a moment to kind of notice nature and how that can boost your mental and physical health. So it's kind of, whether that's at half-time, whether that's after the match, just kind of appreciating the things around the pitch, not just kind of turning up for the 90 minutes. This one, which is kind of like just distracted substitute, looking at the flowers instead of the game, with the absolute state obviously being a good state for the pitch to be in. And then this, which was probably our favourite to shoot, was with the goalkeeper, who was a great character, and the pigeon, which was a 2D cardboard pigeon. We didn't train any pigeons for this shoot, but yeah, it was great, and it was kind of loved by the guys that were in the shots and the rest of the club who all got involved. We managed to visit this billboard in Derby for our second shoot day, and they loved seeing that. And yeah, we then took it a bit further, and we wanted to connect the players and the team with the things that they would find in the park. So this is where we kind of came onto pies and linked it to football with the kind of classic match day grub. We partnered with Tom Davies, who's a professional footballer for England and Sheffield United. And we kind of took them on a journey, foraging before the game. They played the match, we made stinging nettle tea for half-time, and then we partnered with a chef who helped us make the pies, which this video will hopefully explain.
I'll tell you what, that's got a strong kick.
Bit like a free kick to the taste buds. Welcome to Field Lane Football Club. We're going to be making matchday pies from food that we can forage around the pitches.
Great. And we're looking for nettles.
We'll go over there and we'll go have a look. Nettles are really good for inflammation and your immune system. And nettle tea actually is banging. Give them a quick mosh on there. We'll leave this for a minute and we'll go back to the football.
Hey boys, yeah, go win your battles, keep it nice and simple, let's score some goals, yeah?
Oh, it's worked.
Lads, you want to try some tea?
Organic.
And we brought some stuff to show you.
We've got mixed mushroom, barley, a red wine gravy, and we've got nettle seeds on top with mugwort.
Oh, that's nice.
Tom, can you turn your music, Tom?
All the best, lads.
If you need any advice, give us a shout.
Thank you.
So I just press this button.
Yeah, great.
Wow. Hi there, I'm Charles. I'm one half of the creative team, Josie and Charles. Josie can't be here today. We're both creatives at AMV. And I'm here today to talk to you about our addition to this brief, which is Earthworm Projects. Yeah. So I think, well, first sort of, the brief, really was to sort of reconnect youth with nature. And I think the problem we sort of found was that obviously there are all these external things that take young people's attention away from nature. Principally among them is sort of fashion and streetwear. And you never really see a cue for this like this image here for parks and nature. You see it more for, Supreme drops and Gucci collaborations and all that sort of thing. And it was kind of hard figuring out how to draw a connection between nature and fashion. But then we thought about it for a bit and we sort of landed on the fact that just like fashion, nature comes in seasons. And we thought that there's actually all these sort of comparisons you can make between fashion and nature. Most of all is that they're both quirky, they're both interestingly designed, they're both beautiful, but also increasingly rare. Like streetwear and fashion sort of hype themselves up on their scarcity, and nature is something that is increasingly scarce. So we thought, why don't we rebrand nature and launch its spring collection with something we called Earthworm Projects. And this was all about sort of making nature look like a hypey streetwear brand and making it look like something that's scarce, making it look like something you've got to go out there and cop. And we thought we would do this by sort of having a little bait and switch moment where we made something that looked like it could be from the world of fashion, but it's really and truly all about celebrating the world of nature and, its increasing scarcity and the fact that you can go out and cop it. These things are limited. When cherry blossom drops, it drops for a short time. When the first blade of grass sort of starts to rise in your garden, that's a moment that is fleeting, and it's something you should go out there and capture, just like you would do anything in streetwear and fashion. So then that landed us on these lovely out-of-home that we made, so with headlines like "Drop in the Spring," and each ad would advertise an element of nature, so like cherry blossom, get the look, go outside. And then we've got, of course, the springtime perennial daffodils. So petals, model's own was the line for this. And it was all about, getting nature going outside. And then we've got cyclamens, which are a beautifully rare little flower that you can spot in urban areas as well. And this was new this season. And then we had a seasonal staple, which was grape hyacinths. And I think one of the cool things about working on this project was working with teams like Raw Productions and the Flower Laboratory and our photographer, Black Socks, who sort of helped us create this incredible sort of almost fashion editorial-inspired photo shoot, but also sort of helped us bring real nature into it, not least sort of helping us turn a cold field and farm in Bromley into something that looked like, in the middle of January, into something that looked like blossoming, beautiful spring. And then to sort of top it all off, we made a little website that you could go to and find out more about the drops and nature's little drops and where they were coming to and how you could find out more about them and see them. So we've got this here and that there. And that was us. And so that was Earthworm Projects, and we were really proud of what we brought together. And Ooh, awesome.
Good timing for me. Oh, is this what? Yeah. Hello. So I'm Poppy. I worked on this project with a guy called Mikey, who is also not here today. Our project was called Nature's a Drag. So I think, as Lisa mentioned before, I think we all know that nature is good for us, but there's something that stops us connecting with it, or maybe not feeling like we want to get out of it. And I think we thought at the beginning of this, okay, well, what does that conjure up when we think about nature? And often it's sort of peace and tranquility, babbling brooks and all those kind of things. And those are all really lovely, but they're a bit boring if we're all being totally honest. And I think it's also doing nature a disservice, because nature actually has a really wild side. There's storms, there's crashing waves, there's light, there's energy. There's just so much performance in nature. It's just amazing. And that reminded us of something, which is the world of drag, which is something I'm really passionate about. And if you're thinking like, what are you talking about? Let me give you a few examples. So we've got iconic looks. We've got fierce moves, flamboyance, and absolute savagery. Mother Nature is a savage. Think about, this has happened to all of you, I'm sure. You look out the window, it's sunny, and you think, I'm going to leave the house without a jacket. Boom, monsoon. She doesn't care. She's a diva. She will do what she wants. And we love that. And so that's what led us to our idea, which we called cross-pollination realness. So bringing to life the inextricable link between drag and nature. And like really we were trying to speak to, I guess, people who are interested in drag, or maybe even just any kind of performance, and say that that thing that you love about what they do, you can get it from nature too. So we also created a series of out-of-home posters where we kind of brought together drag and nature. So Mother Nature, I think you may have gathered by what I've just said, we think is the biggest, bestest, baddest drag queen that there is. So we brought her together with some real human drag queens. Brought them together in these posters. We really wanted them to be an equal collaboration. So from everything from the way that we treat the type, the position of the model in frame, all of that stuff, it needed to feel like it was nature and drag together. So not drag taking from nature or nature taking from drag or anything like that. We just wanted it to feel kind of whole. Again, we were just really happy with the work. Our photographer, Julia, did such an amazing job, as did our designer, Alyssa. And here they are out in the wild, or the urban wild. Here's us staring lovingly at it like proud parents. And we also brought them out into the wilds of the drag world, so places like Dawson Superstore, The Divine. There are some little A5 versions of them back on the tables just there. Please do take them if you would like to. Give them to friends. Put them up on your wall. Show them to nature. We don't know. We really, really loved all of those executions. But part of our thing was that actually a lot of what drag and nature have in common is movement based, and for obvious reasons you can't really show that in a still. And so what we wanted to do was also create a film. We're also quite conscious of the fact that I think we all love a little bit of anthropomorphization. That was a bit of a long word. Animals and kind of inanimate objects acting like humans, and this is something that, I think we all enjoy on socials. So we made a film, which is kind of drag's answer to the nature film, giving nature, I think, the soundtrack that it deserves, really. Hopefully this will play.
Fall back, walk away. I did not come here to play. Tried your best, but it's my game. I slay. My reign will be so epic. There's no way to forget it. No shade, no shade, no shade. Just sit back, watch me slay. Are you watching me slay? Are you watching me slay, slay? Watch me slay, watch me slay, watch me slay, slay, slay. Fall back, walk away. I did not come here to play. Tried your best, but it's my game. I slay. Watch me slay, watch me slay, watch me slay, slay, slay.
Hi everyone. I've seen our video before, but I still love it. It's so funny. I'm Hadders. I work at Iris London. I worked on this project with Nicole, who's here tonight. Hi, Nicole. Slay. This is Fresh Hell. Welcome to hell. So when we were discussing this brief, the community we kept coming back to all the time was goths. And when we started really looking into it, one thing we noticed is that amongst young people, ironically on social media, searches for goth are on the up. In a way, goth is sort of rising from the grave. So like any good researcher, I went and had 6 pints with a goth. And Bexy, who is one of our former colleagues at Iris, said this amazing thing that goths are the original outsider. So that was the thought that we carried with us. What if we could get outsiders outside? And we did this with a two-part idea. So picture this. It's the 23rd of December. Everyone's gone home from school for Christmas, and you're on a Zoom call with Freya Beer, gothic artist, poet, and generally lovely person, and you're convincing her on Zoom to do her January episode of Freya Beer's Gothic Disco live from a bird hide in Walthamstow wetlands. And sitting beside her is Lyra Valencia from the London Wetlands Centre. So she put together an amazing podcast episode with some epic Gothic tracks, but was bird watching in between. So even if you as a young person couldn't get into nature, at least by tuning in, you could hear the sounds of nature. And there's this amazing moment in the podcast episode where they just take a step back and they just listen to the moorhens, the coots, all the other birds I don't remember the names of, and just the general sounds of nature, just to take that moment to reconnect and maybe think about getting out there if you can. And then beyond that, we produced a zine, which there are a few at the back if you would like to have a flick through. And that celebrated Freya and was also a constant reminder that nature, whatever form it takes, is a lot closer than you think. And they often say the hardest part is starting. It's maybe just, digging out those shoes, taking that step out and just getting out for a moment between meetings or, for a whole afternoon. But nature is closer than you think. And one person, I don't know if you can tell who this is, but one person who really got behind this project was none other than BBC Springwatch's Chris Packham. So that's him as a punk in 1984, birding, which enabled me to write probably my favorite thing I've ever written, which is how to birdwatch like it's 1984. And he's just such an advocate. He wrote us a letter, and he was the icing on top of the Gothic cake. But yeah, a really interesting project. So proud of it. Worked with some amazing people, a lot of who are in this room today. Thank you once again to everybody involved, these amazing creatives. And once again, Nicole, thank you.
Hello. My name is Chip McCoy, and I worked on the talking tree with my partner, Ellie, who is here somewhere. See if you can pick her out. So the talking tree, what could this possibly be about? So we started with thinking about our relationship with nature and how it used to be so integral to the stories we told and our music as a society and a culture. Our festivals were dictated by the seasons, but it really made us think that our relationship with nature since that has changed. From an extremely close connection to something that probably looks more like this on a day-to-day basis, you're probably more likely to come across nature through a screen than in real life. So that started us thinking about nature as a kind of a long-lost friend and how we would go about reconnecting with a long-lost friend. And with our very, very specific set of skills, you'd probably talk to them, which led to probably the most glaring problem we came across, which was that trees cannot talk. Until now. There's our lovely logo. So using the latest tech, we managed to give nature a voice. And I tell you no lie, you heard me. We finally given nature a voice. But we did this by using sensors to track signals like bioelectric activity and temperature and soil moisture, and using, it gets a bit techie, using a localized large language model, which is essentially a machine that is not connected to the internet. So it only takes data from the tree and translates that into human speak. So you could literally talk to the tree based on its present experience. And with Agency for Nature and Locate, we produced a 30-second film directed by Sam Fallover of a lot of young people's interactions with the tree, and that went live on ITV during the FA Cup and was played in cinemas nationwide. And that directed people to our website, thetalkingtree.co.uk, where people could learn more about the project, watch a behind-the-scenes film we'd made, but I think most importantly, give people a chance to reflect and a space online to reflect on their own relationship with nature. And we kind of aided this with some of these tree connecting cards, which was a bank of questions that the tree had asked throughout the conversations with people. But also on the website, you could find out when and where the tree itself would be popping up. And very bizarrely, the tree ended up going global, from Austin to London and to Dublin as well. And I think as a hardened cynic, one of the most interesting or surprising things about this project was when you start talking to a tree with a robot voice, after a few minutes, you started getting some very genuine reactions from people. And it was it was just really special, I suppose, to see how people react in the company of nature when they're given the space to kind of explore those feelings or reflect on that connection and that relationship itself. So I'm finally going to let the tree speak for itself with a short video of some of our favorite interactions.
I've never talked to a tree before, and I really wanted to get to know you.
I am 150 years old. When did you last sit with me?
Every day I remember that I walked past you when I was a very young person. I'm not so young anymore.
Do you find it difficult with a lack of wildlife?
I used to sense more around me through my roots. Now there was less to hear, mostly quiet.
Are we running out of time?
I've noticed changes. Warmer, drier summers and unpredictable rain. These changes affect all life here.
Thank you very much.
Amazing creativity. I think one of the things that really blew us away was just the diversity of ideas, like how you get from sort of one brief to all of these incredible sort of creations is just testament to the creatives involved. And we have so much praise for these campaigns, and it's been described by people in climate communications as a game changer for climate communications, so bridging that gap between sort of culture and nature and climate. And just wanted to quickly show you some of the results, and then it would be great if you've got any questions, in particular for the creatives. So they had 11 weeks. Sorry, I mean, literally, I think we're still all getting over that. But with the help of 150 people who made this possible. So yes, that's here on the stage, but it's a massive collaboration with a lot of people coming together to make it happen. We reached 25 million people in the UK. Which is quite incredible. In a lot of ways, kind of with massive thanks to the sort of media partners who came on board and gave us this huge kind of platform. And I guess following that came a lot of press, so everything from Vogue to kind of Campaign magazine to all the industry titles and beyond. And in 2024, for the first season, we were awarded Top Collaboration of the Year by Campaign's sort of annual awards. So that was incredible because that sits at the heart of what we're trying to do. And I guess for these campaigns, one of the metrics that sort of means the most probably to us given the brief is the positive sentiment. So when you look through social media and you look at kind of how people within these sort of communities and subcultures have sort of reacted to the campaigns, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And in particular, the ones that were kind of anchored in like community, so like drag and football, was like 100% sort of positive sort of sentiment. And I think that's testament to the sort of, I don't know, the kind of relentless desire by the creatives to get under the skin of what really would make this connect with people in those communities at a deep level. So that's kind of it from us in terms of sort of presenting the work. But it would be great, if you have any questions. It's very bright up here, so we can't necessarily see if anyone puts their hand up. But I don't know if, amazing. Okay. Does anybody have questions? Yes, the lady here with the red. There's a mic, roaming mic.
Thank you so much. That was really amazing and incredible work. Sorry, I'm here.
Hello.
I think these are such incredible ideas, and it's very impressive. And just wondered if any of you had plans to take them forward and kind of continue these initiatives.
Hello. I suppose I'm up. I think for the tree in particular, it's not. We're kind of working to keep it going some bit. I mean, I think it's a bizarre ask when you tell a park that you want to attach a machine to communicate with the trees within it. So those discussions are ongoing. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Jake, do you want to? Yeah, I was just I know Jake's just had a conversation this week. Do we have another mic? Oh, there's one there. There we go.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think with mine and James's project, when we first set out, we were kind of toying with how, do we do it for lots of clubs? Do we do it for clubs in London? And we did it with Field Lane because it was the group were amazing, which we discovered on the thing, but we kind of had the fear that we might turn up and it might be a group of football lads that couldn't care less about daisies and nettles in their park. Luckily, they were all amazing, and they still kind of message us, and when they see stuff, they love it. But yeah, we're kind of keen to keep pushing it. We kind of, again, with our insight, it's not just clubs that are kind of in more countryside locations. It's like teams in London. It's big clubs as well. Like if you took Arsenal and Finsbury Park, there's things to find around training grounds, even if it's not around the edge of the pitch inside Wembley. There's parks near the stadium that are still kind of local ingredients. So we're keen to do that, whether that's with a club. We've actually had, from this week, South by Southwest, we've had someone from Sky Sports reach out to us to try and make it bigger in some way, whether that's with a new club or if it's just to promote what we've done so far. So we're hoping we can kind of, tick off a few more teams in the UK or abroad, who knows. But yeah, it's exciting.
I think this lady was next.
Yeah, I would add, thank you so much. I was going to ask about longevity as well, but on another note, I will turn the question towards, we're targeting obviously young people here in these campaigns, and we know this generation loves to produce content as well and interact and engage through various different social media platforms. So I'm really intrigued as creators to know whether a next step or next idea for you guys is also about getting them to generate the content and for them to engage with these amazing narratives you're creating online and on screen.
I can give you an initial answer to that, and then if anyone else wants to add. So we are currently thinking about season 3. This is the second season we've done, and we currently have a proposal in with the National Lottery. So if anybody knows anyone at the National Lottery, tell them to give us the money. And that is really taking the work that we've done over the last 2 years and thinking about how the sort of awareness and engagement that we've been very successful at might lead to action for young people. So embedded in that proposal are sort of academy type structures for young people around sort of content creation and beyond. We're aware of what we've done really well over these 2 years, and in the first year there were all kinds of ideas around gaming and various different other platforms. But yes, keen to sort of include more people in it going forwards in various different ways. Don't know if anybody's got anything to add to that.
Yeah, it works. I would just say a lot of stuff we do is digital. It's very easy to look at a thing on your phone and then keep looking at it and keep looking and keep looking, and you've been there for half an hour. So there was a beauty in this project for us in making something tactile and, in a sense, getting away from the phone, at least for a moment. And then if you follow up by going into nature without your phone, I think that's pretty cool as well. So I'd say we'd love to work with creators, but there's a balance between that and sort of tactile, analog things as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Val Flor from Brazil. I love the idea, and I would love the idea of listen trees, and I would love to see or listen trees from Amazon forest, for example. Talking to me was amazing. We can discuss this after this panel. And I'm curious about the business model, how nature is paying for this creative team or agency.
That's a good question. The money. So as Purpose Disruptors, we are philanthropically funded. For those of you, it was a new area to me, moving from commercial background. But we have philanthropic charitable trusts who fund our work. And so that extends from our core funding, we're now a team of 10, into some of the projects that we're running. So Agency for Nature was funded by a philanthropic organisation in year 1 and kind of also in year 2. And so we're following that model and now applying for funding for kind of season 3. We do have an element of commercial funding as well and are open to ideas of different partnerships. It always has to come with I guess organisations that have the right set of right setup around how it might be funded and what's expected in return. So, for example, we get approached a lot after these projects by brands, charities, etc., who want to work with us because the creative is so incredible. But it becomes quite tricky when you then try and put a brand in. I mean, I worked in branding for like 20 years, but so what we're trying to do here is make it sort of exist in its own right as a blueprint for what's possible with nature as the client. Yeah.
Hi. Congratulations on the work. Like, there's so many. This is all my favourite things on one screen right now, so it's brilliant. I had a question for the creatives, which is: had you noticed through the process of working on this project, had you noticed any shifts in your own behaviours or attitudes towards nature?
Yeah, I definitely have. So when we were briefed on this day and we went out for this walk, we were asked to order ourselves in order of how connected to nature we were. And I found myself on literally at the end, least connected to nature. And I didn't think I should be there, but I didn't feel super connected to nature. I'm not, I don't like bugs, you know what I mean? It's just nature for me is being at Glastonbury, and I'll suffer it for that. But I think doing this project partly, as I said at the start of our drag presentation, was sort of thinking about actually what nature is and realising actually there are loads of parts of nature that I really do enjoy. And also having the realisation that actually we are all part of nature. I think as humans we think that we're over here and nature's over there, and we're animals, right? This is nature. It doesn't look like it, but it is. So kind of having that realisation, and I think I've definitely, since working on the project, just felt more connected and sort of just found myself taking the time to notice things a little bit more when, look up, for example, when you're just on your phone or walking away.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, similarly, it's that sort of thing where, working on this, you sort of start to learn so much about I don't want to use the word product, but the subject of the thing you're working on. And it really does sort of deepen your appreciation and make you sort of, it's not just looking up, it's like looking down and sort of noticing that nature comes in all these shapes and forms, and it isn't just sort of going into the woods or picking wild garlic. It's also just sort of noticing buds peeking up from the concrete. We spoke with a nature expert when we were working on this, and he had this really interesting sort of list of sort of flora and fauna that sort of kind of exist where they do because of man-made actions. So sort of flowers that grow on hedgerow, on concrete and sort of on footpaths and things like that. And it's just sort of noticing that the imprint you're having can be a positive one in almost a way, and that there's nature sort of springing up beneath your feet in ways you don't notice. And then just on the fashion element of it, back to sort of the Olafare campaign, it sort of opened our mind up to sort of lots of brands and things that aren't just doing things like sustainably, which is sort of not being evil, but also using nature to not just inspire it, but be part of the process in really sort of ethical and interesting ways. So sort of natural dyeing processes and sort of mimicking patterns and things from nature, and it's made us more aware of the connection between us and it. And just to Poppy's point, sort of that it's not really an us and it, it's all of it. We're all sort of embedded in it and part of it. And that's been a really interesting thing to sort of learn about personally. Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to ask a bit about the data, the back end of how successful the campaign was. I know you said 25 million interactions, but have you drilled down into that to see how you're actually getting to the audience, the target audience, the youth? And then youth is quite broad. You know, what segment of what age group? You know, is there any particular targets you're looking at?
Yeah, good question. So those stats are against an 18 to 25-year-old audience. So JCDecaux were one of our biggest partners on this and put quite a lot of funding behind it, big amount of kind of outdoor media space. So they have measured it in the way they would measure any kind of media campaign against the kind of audience that we're trying to reach. I think the 25 million is a bit broader, and I think it was about 10 million 18 to 25. I'm looking for Amy or Ali in the audience who might be able to tell me that. But I think the target audience was about 10 million of that 25 million across the different platforms, and still growing, to be honest. So we're still being gifted more media. So WeTransfer at the moment is taking all of the campaigns and using that across their sort of suite. Yeah, so that's where those numbers came from.
And are you looking at anything older then? Because I think you said the up until 14, then only after 30. So you're
so
missing 25 to 30-year-olds or anything earlier than that. You know,
sorry, I can't hear you very well. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're going to do anything sort of like for the 25 to 30s or the 14s to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Which other sort of...
I think the core audience was 18 to 25 that we were looking at, but kind of like, I guess the shoulder of that sort of either side is where the sort of media sits. But the way the media is measured is kind of 18 to 25, 25 to 30, etc. So that's where that sort of kind of target audience is, and that's what those numbers sort of relate to in terms of how we measured it. Any other questions? Any more questions? One more question. It says 35 minutes on there, but I don't believe that to be true. I'm like, they said, make sure you finish on time, but the clock says 35 minutes. One more question, and then we'll...
For all of you who made these fantastic pieces, have you found that doing this work has inspired what you might want to do next, or where you're going to go forward from this?
Good question.
When we all worked on this project, I hope you feel the same. Advertising agencies are typically going against each other, pitching for work. Like, it's very like us and them. What was unique about this project is we had quite frequent check-ins just as a group where we'd share where the work was and how we were getting on. And I think when we shared our work, which was very much work in progress at various stages, we never heard like, no, not that. It was very like stand-up comedy, yes, and yes, why not this? Yes, my mate over here, my colleague at work, happy Christmas in an email. Like, it was honestly this like really refreshing process. So in terms of like what I do next, obviously like this is me just maybe fantasizing slightly, but like that cross-pollination between agencies would be great to see. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't want to get too emotional, but I feel like I've made a few friends along the way.
Oh.
So hopefully everyone else feels the same.
I love the nervousness in your voice.
Or it's just going to be me and the tree.
Yeah, it was a wonderful collaboration, and I think just everybody being really open to sort of, we had a sort of Christmas sort of meeting, and everybody building on each other's ideas was something really fantastic to see. I think, like you were saying, it's normally very, very, very competitive, and one of the sort of main feedbacks we've had from creatives sort of this year and last was like how unique it is to be in this experience and how different that feels, and to know that all of your work is getting made. You're not pitching against each other. There's no competition here. And I guess that's something that we're trying to sort of model as what leadership might look like in the future. Anybody else want to
I
add
was just going to
anything?
say, aside from kind of the way that we work together as sort of different agencies, I think it's kind of beyond that, like production partners, the nature partner, just everybody. It was quite a scrappy process. There was not a lot of time, there was not a lot of money, and people just come out of the woodwork when you're doing something good and are just like, yeah, I want to be involved in this. And you're like our photographer, we're like, are you sure? You're like a really good photographer. Like, you're like, you don't need to do this. But people who are suddenly just passionate about this subject, which is nature, which really everyone should be, but you don't always know, and just people just kind of coming together and just, all hands on deck doing things that really aren't their jobs and just all that kind of stuff. in aid of something really special. I think I would definitely now that I've seen that happen, I think I would have doubted that people would do that. Sometimes you don't want to ask, and it really is a don't ask, don't get. And you ask, and all of a sudden people are like, yeah, I'll do it. And you're like, oh, really? So I feel like it's definitely taught me that I'm going to just ask the question, like, will you help me on this? Do you want to make this thing with me? And sort of see what happens.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I think that was one of the moments with Chris Packham, where Freya said, I think you asked, like, who ideally would you have? And she said, well, Chris Packham. And then we were like, okay, here's Chris Packham. Great, he wants to be part of it. But we had a lot of that throughout the project. Like Poppy was saying, just people want to lean in, and a lot of people give their time either very discounted or pro bono, and that's kind of what makes this thing work. I will say, in a new economic system, which is what we're trying to sort of create here, the money would also flow into this work. Like, I don't want people to have to work pro bono, and I don't want creatives to have to work evenings and weekends to make this happen. Like, the dream is that this is the work that's funded, because this is the work that we need in the world. So just to kind of finish, so we are going to be running season 3. We're always interested in partners. You can scan the kind of QR code that might be behind my head, or just go to Agency for Nature website. But yeah, everything from, creative ideas. I mean, it's been very interesting being here around sort of, tech and AI, and obviously we touched on that last year. We've had stuff around gaming, but also all different ways in which kind of we can interact with culture, and different ways in which we might kind of spread this. It might be more global, for example. And I think I just wanted to finish on a quote that we hold quite central, because this work is not easy a lot of the time, which is, if you want to change the world, throw a better party. And that's what Agency for Nature is all about, bringing the joy, bringing the creativity, and bringing the kind of cultural relevance to nature and climate, which quite frankly deserves it. So thank you very much for being here with us this morning.